Chapter 31. New Commander of the Imperial Guards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Ran suddenly opened his eyes. One of his eyes was flickering with golden light, but the other was filled with a cold light. He was like a god born from the sun and the moon, the yang and the yin. His every movement carried formidable pressure. I thought that the power I accumulated over the past few days would be enough for me to break through to the half-saint realm. It seems something is lacking. Although there was only a difference of one level between the 9th level of the Senior Grandmaster realm and the half-saint realm, it was a huge watershed. Some people might not be able to overcome this watershed for the rest of their lives. For example, the powerful 10-mile sword god died on the way to becoming a half-saint. He was even attacked by the demon, which led to his death. From this, it could be seen that it was not easy to become a half-saint. If one was not careful, one would die. Lin Ran felt that it was a pity that he didn't become a half-saint, but if news of this advancement speed spread, it would shock the entire continent. Not long ago, he was still in the first level of the Senior Grandmaster. Even the most brilliant geniuses couldn't achieve what he'd done. To him, leveling up was almost as simple as eating and drinking. In the entire continent, there were only a handful of half-saints. Almost all of them were in seclusion and were hundreds of years old. The fact that there was a person like Lin Ran who could reach such heights in his 20s was simply unbelievable. According to his current cultivation level, he was enough to dominate the continent. After all, there were not many half-saints. His 9th level of the Senior Grandmaster realm was already enough to make him invincible. However, Lin Ran was still not satisfied. He fell into deep thought. If I want to break through, I have to see through life and death and nurture my sword with blood. Although he was now at the 9th level of the Senior Grandmaster realm, he had never killed anyone, and the sword in his hand had never tasted blood either. However, if Lin Ran really attacked, no one would be able to withstand a single blow from him. He heard rustling sounds not far away. Someone was approaching. Lin Ran's figure blinked. He was wondering who it was, but it turned out to be the Empress. Her first reaction was to say, "I'm not going." Under the moonlight, the Empress was dressed in plain clothes. Without the disguise of the day, she looked more beautiful. When she heard this, she was stunned for a moment before letting out a chuckle, revealing a pair of dimples on her cheeks. Much to his surprise, the Empress said with a mischievous tone, "All right, forget it then." She waved the item in her hand. "I understand that Master Lin has been working hard recently and was about to give you another job. Since you say that you are not going, forget it." It was the token for the commander of the Imperial Guards. It was made of pure gold and carved with dragon patterns. Under the moonlight, it emitted a dazzling light and was used to command the Imperial Guards of the palace. That meant it was a symbol of power. In the next second, the token landed in Lin Ran's hand. "It's indeed a good thing. Thank you, Your Majesty." Looking at her empty hand, the Empress was puzzled as to when Lin Ran made the move. She said in surprise, "It seems that Master Lin's cultivation has elevated to another level. If this were done by anyone else, it would definitely be considered a capital offense." However, there was no one around now. The Empress and Lin Ran had a special relationship. Instead of saying that they were emperor and courtier, it was more precise to say that they were good friends. The Empress thought of something and her eyes looked mischievous. "Master Lin works hard at night but also cultivates hard during the day. I really need to learn from you." Lin Ran was unmoved by her tease. "If the Grand Secretary makes the same request again, please do it yourself. I really have enough beauty." The Empress snorted. For some reason, she felt a little upset. "I think Master Lin quite enjoys it. Those consorts have been giving me more soup recently." The soups were all made of deer antler and tiger penis, which helped boost man's reproductivity. Lin Ran suddenly leaned over and said in a low voice, "Are you jealous?" Looking at the handsome face in front of her, the Empress's heart skipped a beat. His hot breath brushed past her ear like a feather, and she felt an itchiness surging in her heart. She pretended to be calm and said, "I'm the Emperor. Why would I be jealous of you?" The Empress looked calm, but the tips of her red ears betrayed her true feelings. For some reason, the atmosphere suddenly became a little quiet. The temperature in the air rose a little. Even with the cool night breeze, the Empress still felt her face heat up. She quickly changed the topic. "Tomorrow, you'll need to report for duty as the commander of the Imperial Guards." After saying this, she left in a hurry, leaving Lin Ran to stand rooted on the ground. She acted like she was escaping from something. The next day, Lin Ran went to report. Coincidentally, there was an old acquaintance among the Imperial Guards who was in the same batch of contestants as Lin Ran. "I heard that the new commander will take office today. I wonder who it is." Apparently, the new commander is appointed personally by His Majesty. He seems to have a powerful background. Either he's outstanding or comes from an extraordinary family. It seems like we have to build a good relationship with him. We can't afford to offend him as we'll be working for him in the future. By the way, what gifts did you prepare? Don't be like that pathetic Lin Ran. Although he's the champion, he's still a low-ranking mountain guardian. He'll probably be miserable for the rest of his life. The new commander is backed by His Majesty. This time, I've put in a lot of effort and prepared a gift worth tens of thousands of gold." Looking at the person walking towards them, they felt that he looked familiar. "Why does it feel like I've seen this new commander before?" Chapter 32. New Scheme, Friction at the Northern Border. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the new commander approached in front of them, everyone was completely dumbfounded. They thought that they were hallucinating. Wasn't this the pathetic Lin Ran they were talking about just now? Perhaps they were so shocked that the gifts they had prepared fell to the ground. They picked them up in a panic, afraid that Lin Ran would blame them. Fortunately, Lin Ran didn't mind. "Long time no see." Looking at his clothes and the token that represented his identity as the commander, everyone understood that this was not a dream. Lin Ran really transformed from an insignificant mountain guardian to the commander of the Imperial Guards. They were still third-grade guards and had worked their asses off to climb up from the fifth grade. In the end, Lin Ran overtook them and became their leader. "I knew all along that Lord Lin was a promising person back then with a bright future ahead of him. As expected, you made it. I congratulate you on your promotion. This is a small gift I prepared for you. I hope you can accept it." The others were dumbfounded. This bootlicking skill was simply too masterful. The others were not to be outdone and squeezed to Lin Ran's side. "I knew that Lord Lin was blessed with a bright future. Now that you have become the commander of the Imperial Guards, it's really our honor to be able to work under your command." "Exactly. I prayed day and night just to get the chance to work with Lord Lin. Now that I have the chance, I will be loyal and dedicate my life to my job." They praised Lin Ran with nice words. Each of them was better at making nonsense up than the other, trying their best to please Lin Ran. If not for the fact that Lin Ran was summoned by the Emperor, he would probably be bootlicked by them for the entire morning. Soon, it was time for the Imperial Court meeting. As the commander of the Imperial Guard, he naturally had to stay by Emperor Xing Yuan's side at all times. Lin Ran knew that the Emperor Xing Yuan was in a difficult situation, but he did not expect the situation to be worse than he thought. Basically, the real decision-making power was in the hands of the ministers. At most, Emperor Xing Yuan was just like a puppet and would not be able to interfere in important matters. Even if she did, her words wouldn't be taken seriously. Sun Zhonghong and his faction looked at each other. Ordinary people couldn't detect that subtle interaction, but it couldn't escape Lin Ran's sharp eyes. As a 9th-level senior grandmaster, his 5 senses were extremely acute. No move in the Imperial Court could escape his eyes. What were these people plotting again? One of the ministers stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, I have something to report." "Lord Li, please." The northern border is often harassed by the Yong army. Recently, there has been a lot of friction. Now that the great Yong dynasty has suddenly mobilized their troops, I'm afraid they are up to no good. Many people echoed, "Lord Li, what you said makes sense. The great Yong dynasty has been eyeing our country covetously and has been making small moves. I'm afraid they're really conspiring something. We have to take precautions." The empress pondered for a moment and said, "We have signed a peace treaty with the great Yong dynasty, so we can't afford to fall out with them. Why don't we send an envoy to negotiate first?" Lord Li shook his head. "This will take too long and give the great Yong dynasty an opportunity. Besides, people who don't know will think that we're afraid of them and take us for cowards." The empress's gaze gradually became sharp as she asked slowly, "Then what do you think we should do?" "I hope that your Majesty can send masters to suppress them. This way, we can intimidate those who have evil designs on us and also tell the world that the heavenly Saint dynasty is not to be trifled with." As soon as he said that, many ministers agreed. What Lord Li said makes sense. The matter at the border has to be resolved as soon as possible to prevent the enemy from marching further. Speaking of masters, who in the entire heavenly Saint dynasty is qualified and capable to take on such a mission? I think the sword god is the most suitable. Didn't he just come out of seclusion? He should be able to teach the great Yong dynasty a lesson. After all, think about it. If we sent a weak master and lost, wouldn't we be embarrassing ourselves? Only the sword god can ensure that nothing goes wrong. At the mention of the sword god, the empress's expression changed slightly and she subconsciously grabbed the throne. The sword god just cured my poison. He needs time to recuperate. Besides, he never interferes in secular matters. If I ask him to do that, I'm afraid. But the great Yong dynasty is not an easy opponent. We can only ask the sword god to scare off the enemy. Please consider it, Your Majesty. Most of the courtiers knelt down and said in unison, "Your Majesty, please consider it." Among them were even those who supported Emperor Sheng Yuan. After all, they did not know the truth, nor did they know about Sun Zhonghong's scheme. Sun Zhonghong smiled smugly. It turned out that after the poison scheme failed, this old fox came up with another plan. He was trying to send the sword god away. At that time, it would be easier for them to cause a stir in the palace and they would not have to worry about the threat the sword god posed. The northern border was thousands of miles away from the imperial city. It would not be easy for the sword god to rush back after receiving the news. To execute his plan, all he needed to do was send some people to secretly intensify the friction between the Yong army and the Heavenly Saint army at the northern border, fan the flames, and exaggerate the matter during the imperial court meeting. By that time, Emperor Sheng Yuan would have no choice but summon the sword god again. Chapter 33. A storm in the making, disguising as the sword god again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing that most of the courtiers were kneeling on the ground and asking the sword god to go to the border to suppress the rebellion, Emperor Sheng Yuan's expression was extremely ugly. After all, the sword god was no longer alive. How could he be sent to the border? Besides, it was unrealistic to find someone with a strength comparable to the sword god to impersonate him. At this moment, she was caught between a rock and a hard place, but those people were still pressing on her. "Your Majesty, this matter concerns the safety of the Heavenly Saint dynasty. Please make a decision quickly." Almost everyone agreed with this suggestion. They all thought that the sword god was still alive. It had to be said that this was indeed the best solution. However, the premise of that solution happening was that the sword god was still alive. "Your Majesty, why are you so hesitant? Could it be that the sword god is in a special situation?" Left with no choice, Emperor Sheng Yuan could only say, "Then let's do as you suggested and let the sword god lead the army to suppress the rebellion." After the court meeting ended, Emperor Xing Yuan was obviously exhausted. She didn't say anything to Lin Ran. It was obvious that she was worried about the matter concerning the sword god. After a long time, she finally broke the silence. This is the only way. After saying that, she stared at Lin Ran. He had a feeling that her plan had something to do with him. Do you want me to disguise again? Emperor Xing Yuan nodded and forced a smile. I know I'm making things difficult for you, and the way to the north is long and strenuous, but this is the only choice I'm left with. Emperor Xing Yuan had no choice. Sending anyone else to replace the sword god would only make the situation worse. You disguised as me before and beguiled everyone. I believe you can do it again. Lin Ran did not expect that he would have to disguise as the sword god again. What was more, this time, it was the Empress who requested it. So this was the plan she came up with. She originally thought that Lin Ran would reject her or take time to consider it, but he agreed without hesitation. This was out of the Empress's expectations. She couldn't help but ask, have you thought it through? Yes, I've thought it through. Lin Ran knew for a fact that this was a ploy by Sun Zhonghong and the others to lure him away from the imperial city. How could it be such a coincidence? Just as the sword god showed up again, a rebellion broke out in the north, and the sword god was forced to go to the north to crack down on the rebellion. However, Lin Ran did not intend to expose the plan for the time being. He would take this opportunity to beat them at their own game. Perhaps, he could even get rid of all the rats in the imperial court. Looking at Lin Ran's determined gaze, Emperor Xing Yuan felt an indescribable feeling in her heart. This is the sword of the sword god. Although it's broken, it might be of help to you. Lin Ran took the dragon roar sword from her. He originally wanted to give this sword to Emperor Xing Yuan as a token to make her believe what the sword god said. He did not expect her to return it to him in the end. I know it's a dangerous mission this time. You have to be careful with every move you make. At King Zhao Manor. Apart from Sun Zhonghong and the other powerful ministers, there were also forces from the martial world led by Zhou Hao. It could be said that half of the Heavenly Saint Dynasty's forces were gathered here. Last time, our plan to poison him failed. The sword god was actually able to cure the poison. Apparently, his strength has taken to another level over the years of his seclusion. This time, after sending him out of the capital, we don't have to worry about anything. Sun Zhonghong sneered. Sect Master Zhou, you still have the cheek to talk. What kind of trash poison was that? It was easily removed. If I'd known about it, I wouldn't have put so much effort in cooperating with you. Zhou Hao and the others were puzzled. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be the case. Even the people from the drug valley can't remove the poison. Even if it's removed, it'll at least cost the sword god half of his internal energy. Could the sword god be pretending that he's unscathed? What's the point of making so many excuses? You'd better stop boasting in the future, Sect Master Zhou. Zhou Hao was not the kind of person who would put up with insults. The two of them were on the verge of starting a quarrel. King Zhao said in a low voice, "All right, you should focus on the business at hand and put aside your personal grudge." Although the two of them were still looking at each other with hatred, they didn't continue kicking up a fuss. The sword god will set off today. Now that the situation is advantageous for us, it's time to take action. The northern border is thousands of miles away from the imperial city. Even if he can fly back on his sword upon receiving the tragic news, the imperial city will already be in our control when he arrives. We can't be too cocky. I suggest that we stop the news from spreading out of the capital. When the situation is set in stone, no matter how capable the sword god is, he won't be able to change it. No matter what, this is the best time to execute the plan. Everyone, don't let your guard down. Life or death, wealth or poverty depends on this. Don't worry, our men have already disguised themselves and snuck into the capital. They're waiting for the order. There are also our people among the imperial city guards. When the time comes, they will open the city gate, and it'll be a piece of cake to take down the emperor." Everyone looked at each other and smiled, their eyes flashing with greed. Emperor Xingyuan also mobilized a portion of the imperial guards to go to the border with the sword god to suppress the rebellion. As she watched the troop leave, Emperor Xingyuan put her palms together and wished Lin ran a safe trip. At this moment, she still didn't know that the real crisis was coming. Over the past few days, many unfamiliar faces had suddenly appeared in the capital. However, no one noticed them because they were dressed plainly. Besides, life was busy. Who would pay attention to some unfamiliar faces? A storm was in the making. When it came into form, it would wreak havoc to the ostensibly peaceful imperial city. Chapter 34. A Great War is Coming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The imperial city was gloomy with thick and dark clouds hanging above it. The originally majestic palace was shrouded in shadows. The palace maids and eunuchs passing by could not help but speed up. They looked at the sky and felt inexplicably depressed. "I wonder what's wrong with this weather. It's been like this for a few days. Will it rain?" At this moment, Emperor Xingyuan was handling the state affairs in the throne hall. She couldn't help but think to herself that it had been 10 days since Lin Ran set out. If it went smoothly, he should be arriving at the northern border soon. "I wonder how he's doing over there." At this moment, a eunuch ran over. "Your Majesty, something bad has happened. Why are you so flustered? How inappropriate." The eunuch knelt on the ground and said with a pale face, "Your Majesty, King Zhao and his men declared open rebellion against us. They're now heading towards Imperial City." "What?" Emperor Xingyuan was shocked. She knew these vassals had ambitions to replace her, so she had been wanting to summon them to the capital to seize their military power, but she did not expect them to take action so quickly and suddenly. According to her estimation, these people wouldn't choose to rebel at this time. Now that they suddenly declared war, she was simply caught off guard. Emperor Xingyuan rushed to the top of the city wall. Under the dark sky, she could vaguely see smoke rising not far away. The flames of war were raging, and the sound of fighting sent shivers down one's spine. "Welcome, Your Majesty. There's no need for such formalities at the critical moment. How's the battle going?" The generals guarding the city did not look too good. "General Wu has already gone to defend the rebellion, but there are people from the rebel army in the imperial city. With them working together, I'm afraid there's no chance of victory." Emperor Xingyuan's expression was extremely solemn. It seems that this group of people planned this for a long time. What a good ploy. She was not a fool and quickly understood what was going on. As soon as the sword god left, these people started to rebel. It couldn't be a coincidence. These vassals are really capable. It turns out that they also have accomplices in the imperial court. I wonder who is colluding with them. A sharp glint flashed across Emperor Xingyuan's eyes as she recalled the scene in the imperial court meeting that day. No wonder she was asked to summon the sword god to go to the border. It turned out that they were trying to lure the treat away. "Your Majesty, terrible news. General Wu tried his best to hold back the rebels but he couldn't make it and was killed. Now that the rebel army has entered the palace gates, it's not safe here anymore. Please evacuate quickly." The battle reports from the front line were extremely disadvantageous to Emperor Xingyuan. Her army was defeated repeatedly while the rebel army was unstoppable. There was nothing she could do. The rebels came prepared. In addition, they had the help of the people in the imperial city to open the gates for them, so their marching speed was unbelievably fast. On the other hand, Emperor Xingyuan was not prepared at all. In addition, most of her imperial guards were not in the imperial city. Not long ago, she sent a portion of them to the north to help Lin Ran, which resulted in the current situation. Are people already sent out to inform the sword god? The rebel army has sealed off the imperial city. I'm afraid it will be difficult for the news to even reach outside the city wall. Even if it does, it will be too late when the sword god comes back to. Before he could finish, Emperor Xingyuan understood what he was trying to say. The imperial guards were outnumbered and could only retreat again and again. The morale of the army was extremely low. If this continued, it was only a matter of time before the entire army was wiped out. Emperor Xingyuan immediately said, "Bring me armor. I will be supervising the battle in person." No matter what, she had to hold on until reinforcements arrived. When the people around heard that, they were stunned for a moment before immediately stopping her. "Your Majesty, you can't do that. Swords are cold-blooded. If the rebels take advantage of the chaos to attack and assassinate you, then there will be no coming back anymore. Your Majesty, don't act rashly. As long as you are alive, there's hope. There might be other ways. I've made up my mind." Stop the persuasion. Unfortunately, even so, the situation could not be salvaged. There were too many rebels and they had come prepared. In addition, there were too few troops in the imperial city. "Your Majesty. The rebels have reached the Black Tortoise Gate. They will arrive here in less than 5 minutes. The Empress could only give the order helplessly, pass down my orders. All soldiers, retreat to the upper gate." The upper gate was the gate closest to Mount Sword. The 10-mile sword god had set up an array formation there. Perhaps she could use it to resist the rebel army. Soon, they retreated to the vicinity of Mount Sword. Behind them were the ferocious rebels. "Your Majesty, what should we do now? Our army can't hold on for long." Only the emperors could activate the array formation on Mount Sword. Unless it was necessary, the emperor wouldn't resort to this last line of defense. Kill. If anyone can capture Emperor Xingyuan alive, he will be rewarded with 10,000 taels of gold and conferred the title of Marquis. Wealth and power were irresistible. For a moment, the rebels were filled with killing intent. Seeing that they were about to step into Mount Sword, Emperor Xingyuan ordered the entire army to retreat. Her gaze was cold as she looked at the rebel army like they were just dead corpses. In the next second, countless dazzling rays of lights rose. As the array formation moved, the ground shook violently. The rebels were so shocked that their formation was in a mess. Countless people fell to the ground. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? The rebels still did not know what was happening. On Mount Sword, countless spiritual swords trembled, sounding like a humongous troop was approaching from the distance. Chapter 35. Major sects besieged the imperial city. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A dazzling light burst out. In an instant, 10,000 swords shot out at the same time, filling the air with sharp sword energy and charging at the rebel army with a destructive force. With Mount Sword as the center, a huge ripple spread out quickly, so fast that no one could react. Humans had an instinct to sense danger. Looking at the white fog in front of them, even if they did not know what was happening, they could tell it was dangerous. Retreat. There's something strange here. The leading general roared, but it was too late. Swish. The sound of sharp weapons piercing through the air could be heard. In the next second, the general widened his eyes as he looked down at the huge bloody hole in his chest that was pierced through by the sword energy. He fell to the ground, and at the same time, a large number of the troops fell with him. When the rebels behind saw the bloody scene, they were immediately shocked and did not dare to move forward. Emperor Xingyuan and her army were safe and sound on Mount Sword, and they immediately burst out cheering. That's great. With this array formation, we will definitely be able to last until the reinforcements arrive. However, after defeating this battalion of enemy troops, Emperor Xingyuan didn't seem to be relieved. Instead, her expression was more solemn. Do you think this array formation can stop these rebels from marching forward? Before they take action, they definitely have thought about all the possibilities. Emperor Xing Yuan could not help but sigh with a heavy mood. The battle ahead would probably be even more difficult. Hearing Emperor Xing Yuan's words, everyone's joyful smile froze. That's right. They could defeat this legion, but what about the next one? The rebels were a stupid bunch. They would definitely come up with a solution. Soon, the news of what happened on Mount Sword reached the ears of King Zhao and the others. Your Highness, Emperor Xing Yuan and his army retreated to Mount Sword and used the array formation set up by the Sword God to defeat one of our battalions. King Zhao and the others' expressions changed drastically. I didn't expect the Sword God to have a backup plan. As if having thought of something, he snorted. So what? Does he really think a mere array formation can stop us? Since they decided to rebel, they must have taken all things into consideration. Ordinary troops were naturally helpless against an array formation, but what about martial artists? He turned his gaze towards Zhou Hao. Sect Master Zhou, then I'll leave the rest to you. When Zhou Hao heard that, he immediately revealed a smug smile. I've already contacted a few old friends of mine who are willing to help you overthrow the emperor. Soon, Zhou Hao began to gather large sects in the martial world. On the surface, the martial world and the imperial court minded their own business and never had anything to do with each other, but in fact, underneath the calm surface, it was not peaceful at all. After all, how could this group of martial artists with extraordinary ability be willing to let someone who was far inferior to them in terms of cultivation be their emperor? At the same time, the imperial court was also quite troubled by these people from the martial world. They were a rebellious bunch and hard to govern. Previously, with the sword god guarding the imperial city, these people were well behaved. Now that they knew that the sword god had gone to the northern border, they started to have evil designs. Although some neutral sects or sects that did not like to get involved in secular affairs rejected Zhou Hao's invitation, some sects chose to participate. After all, should this rebellion succeed, they would benefit tremendously. At Lightning Mountain Villa. That's great. If the sword god is really dispatched to the northern border, it will be our best chance to participate. If King Zhao succeeds, we will be the founding sect. You can imagine the honor. If the sword god settles the score after he returns, I'm afraid we. So what? The sword god can't change the situation alone. The Heavenly Dipper sect. Disciples, listen up. Follow me to the imperial city to join the great cause. A brand new dynasty will be established with our help. For our Heavenly Dipper sect, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We have to seize it well. King Zhao has already promised that if we make a great contribution, he will give us great power. Firmament sect. The Heavenly Saint dynasty is at a disadvantage and is surrounded by King Zhao and his army. If the reinforcements don't arrive, it'll be just a matter of time before the Imperial Guards are all eliminated. The Sword God can't return either. It seems like King Zhao is even favored by the heavens. A wise man submits to circumstances. Now that King Zhao has made the invitation for us to join the great cause, if we can contribute to it, we will bring endless glory to our sect. Faced with the generous offer by the rebels, even these unworldly martial artists could not help but be tempted. The Blood Sword Pavilion, the Golden Yang sect, and a few other large sects quickly gathered near Mount Sword. Every sect in the martial world all had their own martial artists, martial masters, and senior martial masters. Now that the sword god was not present and the other reinforcements could not arrive in time, the imperial city was like a lone island with no chance of winning. With Zhou Hao as the leader, the Second Legion could be said to be a martial artist army. Be it cultivation level or overall quality, it was not something the First Legion could compare to. Everyone, listen to my orders. We'll attack the array formation together and break it jointly. With Zhou Hao's order, countless energies spread out from their bodies and charged at the array formation. Boom! The loud bang that shook the mountain attracted the attention of Emperor Xingyuan and the others. Your Majesty. Now, the rebels are actually colluding with martial artists. There is a legion of martial artists outside, and they are attacking us. Emperor Xingyuan was pale on the face. Apparently, the rebels weren't going to give her even the time to breathe. Even the array formation set up by the sword god could not stop so many people. Chapter 36. The Fall of the Sword God. The rebel army is excited. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under the bombardment of the various large sects, the array formation that was originally emitting a dazzling white light gradually dimmed, as if it was covered in a shadow. As expected of the number one martial artist in the Heavenly Saint dynasty. The array formation set up by the sword god is indeed powerful. Even with so many of us, we can't break it completely. It's only a matter of time. The energy of this array formation has been exhausted and can no longer resist our attack. Soon, we'll catch Emperor Xingyuan. Everyone, come with me. If we made it, we'd be rewarded handsomely. Zhou Hao and the others looked determined as they increased the output of their energy. The energy in their palms became stronger and stronger, and the array formation became weaker and weaker. Once the array formation was broken, the rebels would march straight in, and there was almost no chance of Emperor Xingyuan surviving. The deafening sound was like a hammer smashing into her heart. Seeing that the array formation had become weaker, she felt helpless. Am I destined to die today? Emperor Xingyuan said solemnly, how long can this array formation last? With a terrified look on his face, one of the generals answered, I'm afraid the array formation can only last a few more hours at most. Your Majesty, please retreat further back. We are willing to protect you with our lives. If waiting was not the way out, they might as well fight a way out. The other imperial guards also knelt on the ground and said firmly, we will protect your Majesty with our lives. Looking at the energy fluctuations at the foot of the mountain, Emperor Xingyuan revealed a bitter expression. I'm afraid there's no hope even if we fight our way out. With so many martial artists joining forces, how could she possibly escape? Then what should we do now? Many ministers looked desperate. Is this calamity really going to end the Heavenly Saint dynasty? If we can get someone to break out of the encirclement with His Majesty's token to bring reinforcements, we might still have a chance of surviving. The rebel army would definitely not allow Emperor Xingyuan to escape. However, if it were anyone else, there was still some chance. Emperor Xingyuan could not help but sigh. I have no reinforcements now. The East Sea Division was currently supporting the neighboring country. The Southern Division was defending the foreign forces and could not leave for the time being. The Western Division was idle, but it was the weakest troop and would be useless even if it came. The Northern Division couldn't possibly get back in time. In short, time was needed for reinforcements to march back. If only the sword god could rush back at this moment. It wouldn't be a problem for him to fight 10,000 enemies alone. Unfortunately, he's far away on the northern border now. Emperor Xingyuan wanted to say something but hesitated. The sword god was long gone. The person who went to the northern border was Lin Ran in disguise, and most likely, he was in danger too. King Zhao had prepared this for a long time, so he must have set up a trap on the northern border too. Is there really no other way? Everyone's faces were ashen, as if the end of the world had arrived. Emperor Xingyuan seemed to have thought of something. Her expression was solemn as she said hesitantly, it's not that there aren't any, but, in the rebel camp. That's great. King Zhao slammed the table and stood up. He, who usually kept a straight face, was extremely excited at this moment. The others couldn't help but ask, Your Highness, what exactly happened? There's news from the northern border saying that the 10-mile sword god is nowhere to be seen. Hearing that, some people were stunned. If the 10-mile sword god is not in the northern border, is he still on Mount Sword then? Or is he already on his way back? Suddenly, the atmosphere in the room became intense, and everyone felt a chill running down their spines. If the sword god really managed to rush back. King Zhao laughed out loud and broke the silence. You're all thinking too much. They didn't see the sword god, but someone saw his broken sword. To a sword cultivator, the sword was equivalent to life. If the sword was intact, and so would the sword cultivator be. Everyone looked incredulous. Is that sword called 10 Miles Dragon Roar? When the sword god made a name for himself, his sword, Dragon Roar, also became famous. They knew the meaning of a broken sword. Either the sword god was already dead or he was seriously injured. Otherwise, the sword wouldn't be broken and he wouldn't abandon it. That's right. The spies I planted in the north saw everything clearly. There's no way it's fake. But when the sword god came out of seclusion and treated Emperor Xing Yuan, there was clearly nothing wrong with him. Perhaps we were all deceived. Perhaps, in fact, the sword god was greatly injured after removing the poison. He was just pretending to be fine to fool us. Everyone thought this explanation made sense. Otherwise, why did the sword god not show up after he set out to the border? And why was his sword broken and in the hands of others? There must be something going on. King Zhao and the others were greatly encouraged by this news. Initially, they were still fearful of being retaliated by the sword god, but at this moment, they were completely relieved. At this moment, Zhou Hao also received a message from his sect. Congratulations, Your Highness. A message from my sect said that the first sect elder has already broken through to the Grandmaster realm and is on his way here. I believe that in less than 2 hours, he will be able to break the array formation and capture the Emperor. Everyone quickly congratulated Zhou Hao. Now that the sword god is gone and your sect's elder has broken through to the Grandmaster realm, I believe victory is close at hand. I will reward sect master Zhou most handsomely after the new dynasty is established. King Zhao couldn't stop smiling. Even the heavens are on my side. Emperor Xing Yuan, you are doomed. Chapter 37. The Pride of the Emperor. I use my blood to change the course of events. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Outside Mount Sword. A powerful pressure was approaching, and many people from the martial world were stunned on the spot. It was as if the pressure was so heavy that they could barely raise their heads. Everyone was terrified. This powerful aura. Is the sword god back? Then, he added, it can't be the sword god. Otherwise, we would have been dead already. They could not even withstand one shock wave of sword energy from the sword god. Someone from the Tao-seeking sect, which was also Zhou Hao's sect, reacted immediately and said with excitement, it's Elder Xie. Elder Xie has broken through to the Grandmaster realm. It had to be noted that in the past few hundred years, there had been no half-saints. There were only a handful of senior Grandmasters who were all in seclusion. The Grandmasters in this world were already unparalleled. With a Grandmaster backing up the rebel army, the battle became one-sided. Welcome, Elder Xie. Congratulations on advancing to the Grandmaster realm. Everyone said in unison. Even the other sects were full of respect. After all, they could not afford to offend a Grandmaster. As soon as they finished speaking, a powerful airflow surged, forcing them to close their eyes. In an instant, the sky darkened. The air in the surrounding condensed and formed a huge hand that was reaching towards Mount Sword. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground shook violently. A small crack actually appeared on the originally indestructible array formation that everyone had been unable to break through for a long time. The white light also became noticeably dim, flickering like a candle in the wind, as if it would be blown out in the next second. Everyone couldn't help but gasp. They had been attacking for an hour and only managed to dim the array formation. Now, with one move, Elder Xie actually managed to crack a hole in it. Was this the power of a Grandmaster? With the help of such a power, what was there to be afraid of? Everyone, Join me. With the help from Elder Xie, the array formation dimed faster and faster. Everyone was excited and seemed to be on steroids, as if they could already see the demise of Emperor Shing Yuan. On the other side, Emperor Shing Yuan and the others also felt a strong commotion outside the array formation. This is the aura of a Grandmaster. A Grandmaster has joined the rebel army. This news made things worse. It was as if her chest was grabbed by something heavy. She said with difficulty, if a Grandmaster joins, the array formation will probably collapse soon. Everyone panicked when they heard that. Then we're completely doomed. There's no hope at all. It was impossible to fetch reinforcements now. Initially, they wanted to fight a way out and help Emperor Shing Yuan escape. As long as the Emperor was alive, there was still hope of coming back, but in the blink of an eye, all the hopes were dashed. They were no match for the martial artists outside to begin with. Now that there was a Grandmaster, their chance of winning was grim even if the army doubled in size. Everyone seemed to have heard the sound of death knell as the morale plummeted. Someone suggested, it seems that surrendering is the only way out. Actually, some people had such thoughts before. However, when the royalists heard this, they were furious. How can we surrender to that group of traitors? How will history talk about us in the future, and how will the future generations think of us? Wouldn't we be notorious? History has always been written by the victors. We can just pretend to surrender to save our lives first. As long as we can make a comeback, what's wrong with that? Don't be so stubborn. No, I firmly disagree. If you're afraid of death, you can surrender, you coward. You're lofty. You're dignified. If everyone dies, who will be there to rebuild the dynasty again? Surrendering is just a temporary measure. One group wanted to surrender while another group insisted on holding on. No one noticed Emperor Shing Yuan had returned to the tent alone with a solemn expression. Emperor Shing Yuan smiled sadly. If Father knew in the underworld that the heavenly saint dynasty would become like this in my hands, he would definitely scold me. I'm guilty. I've let down my ancestors and my father. As the ruler of a country, how can I surrender to the enemy? I'd rather die than live like a coward. Perhaps pretending to surrender to the enemy was indeed a good idea. In order to rightfully obtain the throne, King Zhao still needed her decree. Otherwise, no matter how nice his cause sounded, he would still be considered a traitor. In order to shut up the world, he would definitely keep her alive. He might even make her a king of some sort. However, Emperor Shing Yuan was dignified and wouldn't allow herself to live such a lowly life. I'd rather die than live like a coward. This was the pride of an emperor. She recalled what his father had said before he died. Emperor Shing Yuan could not help but sigh. I didn't expect that I would end up like this. After making up her mind, Emperor Shing Yuan took out the ruby necklace she was wearing. She bit open her finger and dripped the blood into the middle of the gem while muttering something that sounded like an ancient incantation. I'll use my blood to change the course of events. Chapter 38. He's back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 38. He's back. Emperor Shing Yuan shouted. The blood instantly disappeared, as if it was absorbed by something. In an instant, a red light shot out from the gem and surrounded her. A huge force surged out of the ruby and entered Emperor Shing Yuan's body. Her face was pale and filled with pain. With her current cultivation, she could not withstand so much force. The power rampaged through her body and continuously absorbed everything. Emperor Shing Yuan could clearly feel her life force quickly being consumed. In the blink of an eye, half of her black hair turned into white, making her look somehow like a demon. It turned out that this ruby carried an enormous secret force. It was said that the founding emperor gathered powerful martial artists and blacksmiths to create this ruby to ensure that the dynasty would be passed down forever. Sealed in it was a powerful artifact called Heaven and Earth. It had the power to reverse anything. This artifact was extremely lethal and could be said to be a divine artifact that had kept the dynasty safe for centuries. In order to prevent it falling into the hands of those with ill intentions, only the emperor knew the secret and method of activation. Once this artifact was activated, it would cost the user a lot of lifespan, and it was almost irreversible and the activation unstoppable. This was Emperor Shing Yuan's trump card. At this point, there was nothing else she could do. In order to resist the rebels, she could only activate heaven and earth, even if she had to sacrifice her lifespan. What are you doing? The sudden voice shocked Emperor Shing Yuan. She did not notice that there were others around her. She said warily, "Who is it?" A tall figure slowly came out of the shadow. It was Lin Ran, who had disguised herself as the sword god and gone to the north. "Why are you here?" Emperor Shing Yuan was both surprised and happy. Seeing that Lin Ran was still alive and safe, for some reason, she felt relieved, even though she had many questions. Why wasn't Lin Ran on the northern border? Why was he able to rush back so quickly? Why was he able to break through the encirclement of the rebels? However, these questions were not important. Only she wanted to say was, "Thank God, you're safe." Although Emperor Shing Yuan had a lot to say, this was not a good time to talk. The rays of light emitted by the ruby connected to Emperor Shing Yuan like a huge net. Her vitality was draining rapidly. If this went on, she would probably be severely injured and her life would be in danger. Lin Ran's gaze landed on the necklace in Emperor Shing Yuan's hand. "I didn't expect it to be an artifact." Interesting. It was not surprising that he did not notice it. After all, this ruby could only be activated with the current emperor's blood, and when it wasn't activated, it was nothing more than an ordinary gem. Lin Ran waved his hand, and the ruby light quickly dimmed down. A sharp sword energy shot out from his fingertips, turning into thousands of sword beams that cut off the connection between Emperor Shing Yuan and the ruby. Fortunately, Emperor Shing Yuan was not injured at all, and all the life force that was absorbed returned to her body. Emperor Shing Yuan did not know what had just happened. The fatigue and weakness she felt previously were gone, replaced by a refreshness that felt like she had just come out of a nice bath. Her hair also turned back to black. She looked at Lin Ran in disbelief and was dumbfounded. What just happened? The ruby necklace had already returned to its original dormant state. It was as if what happened just now was just her illusion. Since childhood, she had been told repeatedly that once heaven and earth was activated, it could not be stopped. His father would never lie to her. Therefore, unless it was a must, she wouldn't resort to the ruby. However, Lin Han, with a light wave of his hand, could tame the ruby and cancel the activation. Was this so-called divine artifact a fake? Looking at Lin Ran's calm face, Emperor Shing Yuan had a complicated feeling. She stammered, "This is a divine artifact. It can't be stopped once it is activated." To others, it was impossible, but to Lin Ran, it was easy. He was now a 9th level senior grandmaster, but Emperor Shing Yuan did not know about it. Lin Ran couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. A divine artifact. His tone was calm and flat, and Emperor Shing Yuan was struck by the ridiculous thought that this divine artifact might be fake. However, the powerful energy that came out of it just now could not be faked. Moreover, her vitality and life force were being drained. Not only was Lin Ran able to stop the activation, but he was also able to reverse the situation. How terrifying was his cultivation and strength! Emperor Shing Yuan quickly realized that it was not that the divine artifact was fake, but that the person in front of her was powerful. The huge amount of information stunned Emperor Shing Yuan for a long time. Lin Ran still had the same face, but she suddenly found him unrecognizable. She pursed her lips and wanted to say something. "I already know about the rebels. With me here, you need not worry." He could tell that Emperor Shing Yuan was packed with questions, but the most important thing now was to deal with the group of people outside. Lin Ran already knew everything about the rebels. Seeing that Lin Ran was about to go out, Emperor Xing Yuan stopped him. There are many people outside, and there is even a grandmaster among them. I'm afraid you'll be in danger if you go alone. Facing Emperor Xing Yuan's worried gaze, Lin Ran gave her a reassuring smile. Just wait for me here. Chapter 39. Those who are not loyal and righteous will be punished. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Emperor Xing Yuan was in a daze that she didn't even know when Lin Ran left. It was obvious that Lin Ran was more sophisticated than he appeared. In fact, his true strength and cultivation might be greater than one could ever imagine. Perhaps he had already obtained everything from the Sword God. If Emperor Xing Yuan knew that Lin Ran had already surpassed the Sword God, she would probably be even more shocked. Your Majesty, what happened just now? I felt a terrifying force. The martial artists who were attracted by the strange force rushed over, but they didn't find anything abnormal. No one could discern what just took place. However, the lingering pressure in the atmosphere frightened everyone, making them feel odd. Emperor Xing Yuan slowly revealed a smile, no longer as depressed and solemn as before. The Heavenly Saint dynasty is still salvageable. Lin Ran could stop the activation of heaven and earth with ease, which was enough to show how powerful he actually was. Moreover, since he had the confidence to say he could defeat the rebels, then he must have a way. For some reason, Emperor Xing Yuan had endless faith in him. Everyone was puzzled by what Emperor Xing Yuan said and could not help but ask why. Emperor Xing Yuan didn't explain further. At this moment, the rebel camp was filled with joy. Probably because they were confident that they would win and that it was only a matter of time before they could claim victory, they weren't in a hurry to break through Mount Sword. Instead, they had already set up a celebration party. Those who did not know would think that they had already occupied the imperial city. Let's toast to Elder Xie's advancement to Grandmaster Realm as well as our victory. When we capture Emperor Xing Yuan, I will hold a 3-day banquet to celebrate. From King Zhao's tone, it was as if he was already the next emperor. Here's a toast to Elder Xie. With that, he drained his glass. If nothing went wrong, King Zhao should be the next emperor. Everyone started to say nice things to please him. Your Highness, congratulations on your becoming the next emperor. Long live the emperor. I knew all along that your Highness would become the emperor. It is just a matter of time. These nice words pleased King Zhao very much, and the smile on his face widened radiantly. It's all thanks to everyone present that I have what I have today. If I become an emperor one day, I will definitely not forget your contributions and reward you. After congratulating King Zhao, everyone did not forget another important person. Now that the Sword God is dead, Elder Xie has to be the strongest martial artist in the world. You are undoubtedly our role model. Elder Xie is only 100 years old. There's still a long way to go. It's very likely that he can surpass the Sword God in the future. Elder Xie smiled faintly. I'm flattered. The Sword God is brilliant and talented. How can I compare to him? Although he said it humbly, his face revealed smugness. Under everyone's compliments, he was probably feeling complacent and did not even take the Sword God seriously. Elder Xie, you're too humble. Of course you can compare to him. I believe Elder Xie will break through to the realm of Senior Grandmaster, or even half-saint. At that time, Elder Xie will be recorded in history and worshipped by many generations to come. That's right. The Sword God is the past while Elder Xie is the future. King Zhao even said, Elder Xie deserves to be called the best in the world. When I become the emperor, I will definitely confer you the title of the Grand Preceptor. The Tao-seeking sect will be the Orthodox sect. This was a great honor. Everyone from the Tao-seeking sect was overjoyed. The congratulatory words from the other sects made them even more wild with joy. Amidst this happy scene, a soldier rushed in. Reporting. Your Highness, something bad has happened. King Zhao's face immediately darkened as he smashed the wine glass in his hand at the soldier. Watch your mouth. The soldier did not dare to dodge. He said in fear, someone is attacking us, and this person is now at the camp gate. The crowd was in an uproar. At this juncture, who would dare to openly provoke King Zhao? They must be courting death. Could it be that Emperor Xingyuan's reinforcements have arrived? That's impossible. We've blocked every entrance and exit in the imperial city. There is no way they can send someone out. Could it be that another sect wants to interfere? This was not realistic. After all, even if the number one sect in the world was here, they would not be able to turn the situation around. King Zhao sneered. Let me go and see who is courting death. The others also followed out with curiosity. They originally thought that it was reinforcements or a sect, but it turned out that it was not. Looking at the unfamiliar person in front of them, everyone was a little surprised. King Zhao asked suspiciously, just you? He thought that Lin Ran had set up a trap and some kind of array formations. Unexpectedly, Lin Ran nodded. Just me. Everyone burst into laughter. After all, not only were there thousands of troops here, but there was also a grandmaster backing them up. At this moment, Lin Ran's cultivation was not revealed, and he looked no different from an ordinary person. Those who did not know better would think that he was here to make a fool of himself. King Zhao suppressed his laughter. Did Emperor Xingyuan send you here? Lin Ran did not answer directly and only said, I'm sent here by the people of the dynasty. His words confused King Zhao and the others. The new emperor ascended to the throne not long ago, and he has been diligent in taking care of the dynasty and his subjects. He has never made a mistake and is kind to people. However, you, on the other hand, incited a rebellion without a justifiable cause. You are traitors and will not be forgiven. Hearing that, the smile on King Zhao's face gradually faded. Although he knew that his actions were treacherous, he felt a little embarrassed to be criticized in front of so many people by someone who came out of nowhere. Chapter 40. The standard of the strongest is too low. You are listening at novelfull.audio. King Zhao said angrily, Brat, who are you? How dare you talk to me like that? Tell me your name. Lin Ran. Everyone looked at each other in puzzlement. This name didn't ring a bell. Who is Lin Ran? I've never heard of such a person. After a while, someone said with uncertainty, he seems to be the champion of the martial arts competition. After the new emperor ascended the throne, he was sent to Mount Sword to be a mountain guardian. Initially, everyone was vigilant. After all, under such tight security, this person could actually sneak in without anyone knowing and even dared to provoke King Zhao. It seemed like he had some ability. At this moment, when they learned of Lin Ran's identity and background, they were immediately full of disdain and mockery. I was wondering who it was. It turns out that he's just a small official guarding the mountain. Emperor Xingyuan is apparently at his wit's end. He actually sent someone like you to try to convince us. Do you really think we're 3 years old? Everyone looked down on Lin Ran even more and thought that he must have snuck in through a secret passage. His strength was nothing to be afraid of. If you go back now and tell Emperor Xingyuan to surrender and stop resisting, we might consider sparing your life. Lin Ran remained perfectly collected and calm even if everyone was looking at him with mockery and sneer. Instead of living your life in this peaceful era, you chose to start a war and cause the innocent subjects to suffer. I advise you to give up while it's not too late. Lin Ran didn't want to make a move. It was naturally best if no one got hurt. Unfortunately, the group of people in front of him did not think so. King Zhao and the others immediately burst into laughter. Did I hear that right? What did this kid say? He really thinks he's the savior and wants us to give up. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're the sword god who can make us stop? You are just an insignificant mountain guardian. Stop embarrassing yourself. Elder Xie sized up Lin Ran. The news of the sword god's death and the compliments of everyone made his ambition soar. He sneered. Kid, you're really full of nonsense. Do you know that in this world where the strong prey on the weak, strength is everything? Whoever is stronger has the final say. You have no right to speak here. Lin Ran only glanced at him indifferently. It seems like you're very powerful. When he met that dark gaze, Elder Xie felt a chill run down his spine, as if he was being stared at by a ferocious monster. Before he could react, someone else spoke for him. You ignorant thing. Without the sword god, Elder Xie is now considered the strongest in the world. Lin Ran's tone immediately became playful as he said, are the standards of the strongest in the world so low now? A grandmaster can actually be the strongest. Even if the sword god dies, this position of the strongest is not something you people can dream of. Everyone was stunned by his arrogant attitude, not knowing what to say. With no half-saints currently known to the world and most senior grandmasters in seclusion, a grandmaster could naturally be considered the strongest. Elder Xie's face turned livid when he was looked down upon by a nobody. Before he broke through, he was already powerful and no one dared to provoke him. After he broke through, he was more respected by everyone. Even King Zhao treated him with respect. It was the first time he was insulted like that. He said through gritted teeth, how dare you? If not for his pride, he would have already made a move. After all, he was a grandmaster and it was naturally not right for him to deal with someone who had no cultivation. King Zhao's face darkened as he gave the word. Instead of living your life, you came to seek death. Soldiers, take him down. The surrounding soldiers immediately swarmed forward. However, in the next second. Boom! A powerful force swept out from Lin Ran as the center like a violent wind, sending all the soldiers flying away. This kid is probably hiding his strength. Seeing this, Elder Xie no longer cared about his pride and made a move. He slashed in the air, and a huge palm appeared in midair. It was like a mountain that carried a terrifying pressure. Under the huge palm, Lin Ran was as small as an ant, and it looked like he could easily be crushed to death. The sound of the heavenly rang, releasing extremely powerful and formidable energy. Crush him. Even the onlookers were in awe, let alone Lin Ran, who was in the center. He stood rooted to the ground and did not even have the intention to dodge. Everyone mocked, is this kid scared silly? He can't even move now. It seems like it. He's doomed today. Even if he runs, the palm will still crush him. Seeing that the giant palm was about to land, Lin Ran finally made a move. Without warning, a sharp sword energy soared into the sky. Everyone shuddered. They did not even see it clearly. They only saw a dazzling ray of light flashing by. Boom! The huge palm was split into two. When they looked up, the sky was already shrouded by countless sword intent, making one feel like they were in a different world. For a moment, they were shocked. Elder Xie took half a step back and fought back the blood that was surging up in his throat. His face revealed an expression of disbelief as he said with his eyes wide open, how can this be?